rain, it came down. Not as a gentle blessing, no. This was a fury, an onslaught. Nairobi, our vibrant green city in the sun, was gasping for air, submerged under a torrent of angry brown water. Streets became rivers, fast-flowing and treacherous. Cars, those symbols of status and progress, were tossed around like toys, their alarms wailing a mournful chorus against the relentless drumming of the downpour. In Matha, in Kibera, the water rose with terrifying speed, devouring homes, hopes, and the very ground beneath people's feet. It was a scene from a nightmare, unfolding in broad daylight, a stark reminder of nature's untamed power. Oh, Kenya, my beloved country, what had become of us? Imagine this, a mother in Mukuru kwa Njinga, clinging to her child, the water swirling around her waist, cold and menacing. She had watched her few belongings, her life's treasures, swept away in an instant. Her home, a humble structure of tin and hope, was gone. All around her, the sounds of chaos, shouts for help, the crashing of debris, the cries of the desperate. This wasn't just water. It was a liquid monster, indiscriminate in its destruction. The city's pulse, usually so vibrant and chaotic in its own unique way, was now a throb of fear and uncertainty. This was not the Nairobi we knew. This was a city under siege. The usual hustle and bustle, the matatus weaving through traffic, the street vendors hawking their wares, all silenced, replaced by the gurgle and rush of floodwaters. Downtown, businesses that had stood for decades found their ground floors inundated, merchandise ruined, livelihoods washed away. Shopkeepers stood in disbelief, watching years of hard work disintegrate into the murky deluge. The infrastructure, already strained, buckled under the pressure. Drains, clogged and overwhelmed, offered no respite. Instead, they spewed back the city's refusers, adding to the filth and the despair. This was a city brought to its knees, humbled by the sheer force of nature. And through it all, the rain kept falling. It was a relentless, unforgiving curtain of water, obscuring the familiar landmarks, transforming the landscape into something alien and hostile. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth, sewage, and a pervasive sense of dread. News reports crackled with updates, each one more harrowing than the last. Another bridge collapsed, another community cut off, another life tragically lost. The city held its breath, praying for a reprieve that seemed determined not to come. April 2024, a month etched forever in our collective memory as the time the heavens wept and Nairobi drowned. It began, as it often does, with the promise of life-giving rains. The March, April, May season, a period Kenyans usually welcome, a time for planting, for growth, for the land to rejuvenate. The first showers were gentle, a soft kiss upon the parched earth. Farmers smiled. City dwellers felt a cool respite from the usual warmth. There was an air of anticipation, of nature's cycle unfolding as it should. No one, absolutely no one, suspected the deluge that was to follow. The meteorologists had warned of enhanced rainfall, yes, perhaps influenced by El Nino, but the scale, the sheer ferocity, caught us all off guard. It was a script we hadn't prepared for. The initial, welcome showers soon morphed into something more persistent, more intense. Days blurred into a continuous downpour. The drumming on corrugated iron roofs became a constant, unnerving soundtrack to our lives. What was once a blessing started to feel like a siege. Rivers, usually gentle streams, began to swell, their waters turning an ominous muddy brown, carrying with them debris and the first signs of the chaos to come. People looked to the skies, their faces etched with a growing concern. How much more could the land take? How much more could we endure? The usual chatter about the good rain slowly turned into whispers of worry. Then, the heavens truly opened. It wasn't just rain anymore. It wasn't just rain anymore. It was a relentless barrage. The ground, already saturated, could absorb no more. The water had nowhere to go but sideways, outwards, across farms. It was as if a celestial dam had burst, unleashing an unimaginable volume of water upon an unprepared nation. The transformation from a welcome natural phenomenon to a terrifying, destructive force was swift and brutal. The whispers of worry escalated into cries of alarm as the reality of the unfolding disaster became terrifyingly clear. This was no ordinary rainy season. This was a reckoning. The sheer volume was staggering. Gauges overflowed. Records were shattered. This wasn't just a bad spell of weather. It was a climatic event of historic proportions. Scientists would later point to a confluence of factors. Climate change exacerbating the El Niño phenomenon, leading to unprecedented levels of precipitation. But for the ordinary Kenyan, huddled in their homes or battling the rising waters, the scientific explanations offered little comfort. All they knew was the rain, the endless pounding rain that had turned their world upside down, transforming a season of hope into a period of profound sorrow and loss. The numbers, when they began to trickle in, were horrifying. Each figure represented a life, a story, a family shattered. First dozens, then scores, then over 200 precious lives lost. 238 souls, to be precise, by early May. Men, women, and tragically, so many children, swallowed by the raging floodwaters or buried under mudslides. Entire families wiped out in an instant. The grief was palpable, a heavy shroud that settled over the nation. How do you even begin to comprehend such loss? How do you console a mother who has lost her children, a mother who has lost her husband, has lost his wife, a community that has lost its future? They were our brothers, our sisters. Beyond the tragic loss, no such a soul was known to a tragic loss, no such a soul. Over 200 of Spartans lost. Over a brother's house. Individuals, their lives uprooted, their homes destroyed or rendered uninhabitable. They sought refuge where rendered uninhabitable. As they sought root or rendered uninhabited, or destroyed or rendered uninhabited, not always. 14. That one won't hold that hand. It can't do it. She got those that do that. Don't let them be. Touch some color. But I'll now release all of this. The camera become to the Nairobi, the dead of death has seen Nairobi. The engine of athlete hut. It has pulled hold of the drenched of Titanic. It's so its most vulnerable, its most little but the left, it's all good. Night was night, please. Said, tell, tired, I want to. Is it did it? So, no. Was that was a chateau that was a tilted dot Got to tag up was that was that means some money. thought it was that it was good months. It'll be bottle bustle to jam and didn't rotten to a shot. After lonely rigid Brexit, John was exactly due on the dirt after ingredient standards Peters. There was a line along the Nairobi came the relentless assault of the water under the relentless assault of the water, isolating communities and hampering rescue efforts. And it wasn't just Nairobi. From the Rift Valley, where the Mai Mahiu tragedy saw a torrent of water, mud, and debris bury homes and claim dozens of lives, to the Tana River region, to Western Kenya, and the coastal areas, the story was distressingly similar. A nation submerged. Farms were washed away. Livestock drowned, livelihoods destroyed. The economic cost, still being tallied, will undoubtedly run into billions of shillings. But the human cost, the trauma, the despair, the shattered dreams, that is immeasurable. April 2024 was a cruel month. It left scars on our landscape and on our hearts that will take a long, long time to heal. The ferocity of the rains was undeniable, an act of nature at its most powerful. But let's be clear, the devastation was not solely nature's doing. It was amplified, tragically so, by years of neglect, poor planning, and a blatant disregard for the environment. Our city, Nairobi, and indeed many parts of our country were sitting ducks. The drainage systems, where they existed, were woefully inadequate, often clogged with plastic waste and silt, a testament to our collective failure in managing our urban spaces. When the deluge came, there was simply nowhere for the water to go. It was a disaster waiting to happen, and happen it did, with catastrophic consequences. For years, experts had warned. Oh yes, the warnings were there. Environmentalists, urban planners, even the meteorological department itself. They had all sounded the alarm about the dangers of unplanned development, of constructing buildings on riparian reserves, those crucial buffer zones along rivers. These areas, meant to absorb excess water, had been encroached upon, grabbed and built upon, often with impunity. The rivers, choked and constricted, had no room to breathe, no space to swell. So, when the heavens opened, they reclaimed their paths with a vengeance, sweeping away illegal structures and, tragically, the lives within them. This was a man-made crisis, exacerbated by nature. Infrastructural failures were rampant. Roads, poorly constructed or maintained, were washed away like sandcastles. Bridges, the vital links connecting communities, collapsed under the strain, isolating thousands and making rescue and relief efforts incredibly challenging. Think about it. Resources couldn't get in, and people couldn't get out. There was a distinct lack of investment in resilient infrastructure that could withstand the increasing shocks of climate change. Warnings about specific dams being full or unstable were sometimes issued too late or not heeded with the urgency they demanded. The system, it seemed, was not designed for the people's safety, but for other, less noble interests. The blame game started, as it always does, but pointing fingers offers little solace to those who lost everything. What we needed and still need is accountability. Accountability for the permits issued for construction on wetlands and riverbanks. Accountability for the failure to maintain and upgrade our urban drainage. Accountability for ignoring the clear and present danger posed by environmental degradation. These floods were a brutal expose of the cracks in our foundations, the systemic failures that turned heavy rains into a national tragedy. We cannot simply rebuild. We must reevaluate. We must reevaluate, replan, and enforce the laws meant to protect us all. The water came so fast, whispered Mama Akinyi, her eyes still wide with the trauma of that night in Mathar. One minute, we were sleeping. The next, the river was in our house. I grabbed my children, but everything else, gone, just gone. Her voice, barely audible above the din of the displacement camp, was a chilling testament to the suddenness, the sheer terror of the floods. She, like thousands of others, had lost her home, her meager possessions, her sense of security. Her story is not unique. It is the story of countless Kenyans whose lives were irrevocably altered by the raging waters. These are the voices that must be heard, the experiences that must shape our response. Shopkeeper Kamau from a downtown Nairobi street recounted his despair. I have run this electronic shop for 20 years. 20 years of hard work, saving, building. In one afternoon, the water rose above the counters. Everything, all my stock, TVs, radios, phones, all ruined. How do I start again? Where do I even begin? His words, laced with a weary resignation, echoed the plight of so many entrepreneurs, small and large, whose livelihoods were washed away. The economic ripple effect of such losses is immense, impacting not just individuals but entire communities. A blow to our already struggling economy. Health workers, our heroes on the front lines, shared their own harrowing tales. Dr. Wanjirira, working at a makeshift clinic in a flooded area, spoke of the overwhelming needs. We are seeing injuries, of course, from the flooding itself. But now, the biggest fear is disease. Cholera, typhoid, malaria. The conditions are ripe for outbreaks. We lack clean water. Sanitation is non-existent in many places, and medical supplies are running low. Their dedication was inspiring, their warning stark. They battled not just the immediate aftermath, but the looming threat of secondary disasters, fighting to save lives against incredible odds, often with limited resources. And the experts, the urban planners, the environmental scientists, they too raised their voices, tinged with a grim "we told you so." Professor Otieno, a hydrologist, explained, "This was not an unpredictable event. The patterns of extreme weather are becoming clearer. We have failed to integrate climate resilience into our urban planning. We have ignored the natural ecosystems that protect us. Riparian lands are not wastelands, they are essential floodplains. Until we respect nature and plan with it, not against it, these tragedies will continue." Their analyses provided the crucial context, a call for a fundamental shift in how we manage our cities and our environment. The waters may have receded in some areas, but the suffering, the suffering lingered, a heavy, suffocating blanket. Displacement became the new, grim reality for hundreds of thousands. Families crammed into schools, their classrooms turned into dormitories, the laughter of children replaced by the quiet hum of despair. Others found shelter in churches, community halls, or with already burdened relatives. These temporary shelters, often lacking basic amenities like clean water, sanitation, and privacy, became breeding grounds not just for frustration but for disease. The dignity of our people was eroded day by day in these overcrowded, unsanitary conditions. The threat of waterborne diseases loomed large, a terrifying specter in the wake of the floods. With sewage systems overwhelmed and water sources contaminated, the risk of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery skyrocketed. Health officials issued urgent warnings, scrambling to distribute purification tablets and conduct health awareness campaigns. But in many affected areas, especially the informal settlements, access to clean drinking water remained a critical challenge. Children, the most vulnerable, began to fall ill. The stagnant pools left behind by the receding waters also became perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes, leading to a surge in malaria cases. It was a secondary crisis, compounding the initial trauma. Food insecurity became another pressing concern. Many of those displaced were subsistence farmers whose crops were entirely washed away. Others were daily wage earners whose places of work were destroyed or inaccessible. With no income and no food reserves, hunger began to bite. Relief efforts, though valiant, struggled to reach everyone in need, hampered by damaged roads and the sheer scale of the disaster. The sight of people queuing for hours for a small ration of food was a painful reminder of the deep vulnerability exposed by the floods. The struggle for survival continued long after the rains had stopped. The psychological toll, though less visible, was equally devastating. The trauma of witnessing homes destroyed, loved ones lost, or narrowly escaping death left deep emotional scars. Children, especially, were affected, their young minds struggling to process the chaos and loss. Many adults grappled with anxiety, depression, and a profound sense of hopelessness. Overwhelmed shelters could offer little in terms of psychosocial support. The invisible wounds of April 2024 would require as much, if not more, attention and healing as the physical destruction. The resilience of the Kenyan spirit was being tested to its very limits. As the flood waters carved new paths through our cities and countryside, there was an eerie sense of nature reclaiming its territory. Rivers, long constrained by human development, burst their man-made confines, reminding us of their ancient power. It was the flimsy shacks in the informal settlements that were completely washed away. Systems. Imagine if widespread, timely. Mobile alerts, community radio broadcasts, sirens in flood-prone areas. These could have provided crucial hours. Risks could also play a vital role. The echoes of this disaster must not be cries of despair, but a clarion call to embrace smarter, more sustainable ways of living with nature, using the tools at our disposal to protect our people and our future. In the face of such overwhelming adversity, something truly remarkable shone through: the unbreakable spirit of the Kenyan people. It was a sight to behold, a testament to our shared humanity. Ordinary Kenyans became heroes overnight. Young men with nothing but courage and makeshift rafts braved treacherous currents to rescue stranded families. Neighbors opened their homes to those who had lost everything, sharing their food, their clothes, their meager resources. The spirit of Harambee, pulling together, is alive and well, pulsating through the heart of the crisis. This was Kenya at its finest, a nation united in compassion. Community groups, religious organizations, and local businesses quickly mobilized. Collection points for food, blankets, and clothing sprang up across the country. Volunteers worked tirelessly, sorting donations, cooking hot meals for the displaced, offering a comforting word, a shoulder to cry on. The Kenya Red Cross Society, as always, was at the forefront. Its volunteers and staff working around the clock in the most challenging conditions. The National Youth Service personnel were also deployed, assisting with rescue operations and clearing debris. It was a collective effort, a powerful demonstration that when Kenyans come together, incredible things can happen. Social media, often a space for division, transformed into a powerful tool for good. Kenyans used platforms like X, Facebook, and WhatsApp to share information about missing persons, to coordinate rescue efforts, to appeal for donations, and to offer messages of hope and solidarity. Hashtags like Kenya Floods and Kenyans for Kenyans trended, creating a virtual community of support that transcended geographical boundaries. This digital outpouring of empathy and practical assistance was a modern manifestation of our age-old tradition of community support. It showed that even in the darkest of times, technology could be harnessed to bring out the best in us. The personal courage displayed was awe-inspiring. Stories emerged of individuals risking their own lives to save others, of communities banding together to protect the vulnerable, of people who had lost everything still finding the strength to help their neighbors. This resilience, this deep wellspring of compassion and solidarity, is the true wealth of our nation. It is the foundation upon which we can rebuild, not just our homes and infrastructure, but our hope for a better future. The floods may have washed away many things, but they could not extinguish the enduring flame of the Kenyan spirit. Oh, what a people we are! As we begin the long and arduous journey of rebuilding, we must do so with a clear understanding resilience alone is not enough. We cannot simply aim to bounce back to the way things were, because the way things were left us vulnerable, exposed. This tragedy, born of water and neglect, must be a catalyst for profound change. We must rebuild, yes, but we must rebuild smarter, safer, and with a deeper respect for the environment that sustains us. This means investing in climate resilient infrastructure, enforcing our planning laws rigorously, and ensuring that no one is allowed to build on riparian land or floodplains. The voices of the survivors, lessons from the experts, stark images of devastation. These must guide our path forward. We need policies that prioritize integrated water resource management, that invest in robust early warning systems accessible to all, and that empower local communities to be part of the solution. There must be accountability for past failures, and a steadfast commitment to transparent and responsible governance in urban and rural planning. This is not about assigning blame for political points. It's about learning the hard lessons and ensuring such widespread devastation never happens again. Our children. We must carry the memory of April 2024 not as a burden of sorrow, but as a sacred trust. We owe it to the over 200 souls who perished, to the hundreds of thousands displaced, to never forget the fury of those floods and the systemic failures that amplified their impact. Remembrance should fuel our resolve to demand better, to do better. It should inspire us to create communities that are not just resilient in the face of disaster, but are inherently safer, more equitable, and more sustainable by design. This is the true meaning of never again. Let the waters of April 2024 be a baptism, then not of despair, but of renewed purpose. A cleansing that washes away complacency and ushers in an era of responsible stewardship of our land and our communities. The road ahead is long, and the challenges are many. But the Kenyan spirit, as we have seen, is indomitable. Let us harness that spirit, that courage, that compassion, and forge a future built on the foundations of memory, wisdom, and unshakable. Kenya, my beloved. We will rise again, stronger, wiser, and more united. We must.